What do the following have in common? A forest watched over by centenary giants. A desert lost within an oasis. A natural treasure only a few kilometers from Barcelona. Surprising beaches from which the sea cannot be seen. And a grotto which contains endless wonders. The answer? They all form part of the most spectacular natural spaces in Spain. They say that it's the smallest beach in the world. An unusual beach which emerges in the midst of green fields, and where the sea can be enjoyed without it being seen. This is one of the hidden treasures of the protected landscape of the Costa Oriental de Asturias. The beach of Gulpiyuri. The abrasion of the sea on this rocky limestone coast has given rise to a spectacular karst relief with surprising formations. Arches, blowholes, caves, and interior beaches such as Gulpiyuri, a spot of great beauty which has been declared a natural monument. Gulpiyuri is an old word of Astur origin, meaning circle of water. Here erosion has dissolved the limestone to open a cavity inside the cliff. When the roof of the cliff fell in, it left this semicircular gap less than 100 meters from the coast. Through tunnels and channels, a piece of the Cantabrian Sea slips in between the cliffs to cover this beach of scarcely 40 meters with water each time the tide rises. An incessant rhythmical pumping which is like a heartbeat. Near Gulpiyuri, another small coast is also hidden from the sea. Cobijeru is not only a beach, it is also a geological complex. A severely eroded coastline with sinkholes and abysses, caves, and sharp cliffs which form an impressive landscape. The water penetrates the cliffs between a natural arch known as the Souto del Caballo, or horse's jump, and is propelled towards the beach with severe jolting through a blowhole. With a strong swell, the jets of water are pulverized by the air pressure to provide an incomparable spectacle. Alongside the beach stands the Cueva de Cobijeru, a gallery of over 200 meters which runs into the Cantabrian Sea. A perfect example of how the erosive power of the sea dissolves the limestone. This place served as a refuge for locals during the Spanish Civil War. An outer cave which exists alongside an inner beach. A few kilometers away from here roars the blowhole of Santiuste, the largest of the coast of Asturias. Blowholes are vertical channels connected to cavities at the base of cliffs from which the water, pushed by the swell, emerges under pressure like a geyser. Their powerful sound competes in beauty with the column of sea which rises towards the sky to reach a height of 40 meters. This is one of the many natural attractions which the eastern coast of Asturias has to offer. The ruins of the eternal battle between the sea and the coast. But what ruins? A green lung barely 50 kilometers from the city of Barcelona, where the landscape is at the same time Mediterranean, Central European, and Alpine. A place with extraordinary biodiversity in which man has left his mark over time in a sustainable manner. A landscape which has inspired intellectuals and artists, and which today captivates the numerous tourists which visit it. This beautiful setting is the Montseny Nature Reserve. Its name comes from the Latin Mont Cygnus, or Sign Mountain. It was so called because in antiquity this massif served to orient ships reaching the coast. The massif is actually formed of 3 different mountainous complexes with peaks reaching 1,700 meters in height. Montseny is the oldest nature reserve in Catalonia, an environment of great ecological value which has been declared a biosphere reserve by the UNESCO. The huge differences in humidity and temperature to be found here allow the existence of highly diverse vegetation. Mediterranean woodland on the lower and middle parts with cork oaks, holm oaks, pines and other oaks. Central European woodland above 1,000 meters with the most southerly fir woods in Europe. And beech woods of outstanding beauty. There are also subalpine environments on the peaks with thickets and meadows. This richness of habitats serves as a refuge for a great variety of fauna, including both typically Mediterranean species and others characteristic of Central European ecosystems. The stock breeding and forestry exploitation, which has been the economic mainstay of the region, has been carried out in a sustainable manner to look after the environment, which has allowed the preservation of the natural richness of Montseny. Today, its main resource is tourism. It is one of the most popular nature reserves in the region. The diversity of landscapes with which it regales us, the multitude of plant and animal species, and the beauty which is evident everywhere, make the Montseny Reserve a wonderfully refreshing natural treasure. we still have many amazing places to visit, such as this deep defile where the rocks touch the sky. A hypnotic labyrinth of surprising shapes. And the fine trace drawn by a river with artistic aspirations. The cold appears to have taken possession in this outstanding moorland. Dispersed among the frozen vegetation, the series of crags which cover its surface begin to appear with the sun's first rays as an intricate mineral labyrinth is revealed. Here, the limestone has been defeated by the constant assault of wind and water. Although its wounds are clearly visible, they do not detract one bit from their beauty. Indeed, it is its broken nature which makes this place so special. A hypnotic spot. The Labyrinth of Las Tuercas. Located in the north of the province of Palencia, the landscape of Las Tuercas is one of the most exceptional and least known natural monuments of Spain. A karst enclave formed of limestone from the Cretaceous period of 90 million years ago. Ancient marine sediments which emerged owing to tectonic thrust and have been subsequently eroded by the action of the elements. The sun, rain, wind and ice have slowly worn down the soft limestone rock to produce a rock garden of capricious forms. Inhabited from the Paleolithic to the Middle Ages by various civilizations, this landscape of the Montaña Palendina was riddled with underground caves of karst origin. As it filtered through the rocks, the rainwater gradually dissolved the calcareous ground. Subterranean currents caused the collapse of the roofs of these primitive galleries to create an environment dominated by narrow passages and alleyways. A magical landscape composed of arches, cornices, vaults, caves, towers, columns, and curious mushroom-shaped crags. The Peña de la Mesa, or Table Crag, is its main icon and its highest point at 1,070 meters above sea level. The landscape of Las Tuercas rises atop this hill like a wounded fortress. Still standing, it invites us to lose ourselves on its labyrinthine trails in search of hidden spots to surprise us. an exuberant vegetation of refreshing greenery, watched over by giants. Huge trees which stand in a straight line seeking the sky. They are the centenary guards of this magical place. The oldest eucalyptus wood in Europe, the Souto da Retorta. A little Garden of Eden located in the north of the province of Lugo on the banks of the river Landro. Here, some 600 large eucalyptus trees coexist with native woodland. They are among the tallest examples on the continent, as many of them are over 50 meters tall. This shady environment is an oasis of peace, a refuge in the shelter of the majestic silhouettes of the eucalyptuses. The waters of the river which adorn the landscape are responsible for the presence here of these titans. Rosendo Salvado. It would appear a fascinating defile. A dizzying landscape of deep canyons, vertical walls, and waterfalls which fall fearlessly into the void. The nature reserve of Despe&ntilde holds an extraordinary geological, natural and historical heritage. The natural frontier between Castilla-La Mancha and Andalusia, the waters of the river Despe&ntilde have ripped up the landscape to create in its path a deep defile in which spectacular geological formations can be found, such as the natural monument of Los Órganos, a series of huge quartzite columns which recall the organ pipes of a cathedral. The erosion of this sea floor, which emerged 300 million years ago, has created a landscape of great beauty in which the grey of the rocks contrasts with the intense yellow, orange and green colors of the various species of lichen which cover them. In the shelter of the rocks grows a dense vegetation which is characteristic of the Mediterranean woodland and is a refuge for lynxes, wolves, red deer and wild boar. The leading role, however, is played by birds of prey. It is easy to contemplate imperial eagles or griffon vultures flying over the area. A territory with great biodiversity of flora and fauna. This place was also the stage of one of the most important conflicts in the history of Spain. The Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa. The remains of the Almohad castle of Castroferral, which was occupied by the Christian troops 3 days before the famous contest, still stand as if on guard. Very near these ruins, part of the Roman road known as the Via Augusta can still be seen. The human presence in this area goes back to the Neolithic. The numerous votive offerings found in the natural sanctuary of the Cueva de los Muñecos, where the ancient Iberians worshipped their gods, are from this period. A Mediterranean woodland of centenary hulm oaks and cork oaks covers its rugged orography. Water makes its way between the steep hillsides to create scenes which leave us speechless, such as the Cascada de la Cimbarra, an impressive waterfall 20 meters high down which the river Guarrizas falls. Mountainous formations, defiles and ravines. A wild landscape marked by the greenery of its vegetation, among which appear the imposing and defiant crests of quartzite. All this and much more can be found in the Despe&ntilde Nature Reserve. One marvel after another, and yet another. This place is full of marvels. And this could hardly be otherwise, as we are in the Gruta de las Maravillas, or Grotto of Marvels, an underground world in which nature offers us scenes of incredible beauty. Surrounded by green dehesa pasture land, the small hill which is crowned by the castle of Aracena conceals in its interior a universe of shapes which surpass human imagination. This cavity is the result of the action of water on limestone rocks of the Cambrian period, which are over 500 million years old. Its incessant dripping has dissolved the rock to create this geological treasure. This surprising place was discovered in the mid-19th century and opened to the public in 1914 to make it the first tourist cave in Spain. Today, it is the most popular natural monument in the province of Huelva. 12 halls are arranged on 2 superimposed levels with a common denominator: astonishment. Stalactites, stalagmites, columns, grooves, eccentric speleothems, outflows, succeed each other along a circular route of more than 1 kilometer. A rich abundance of speleothems, or formations of cavities as unusual as the blue eccentric speleothems or the floating calcite cones. The formation known as Impossible Love is one of the most emblematic spots. Separated by just a few centimeters, a stalactite and a stalagmite seem to want to touch each other. Hundreds of years will have to pass before they form a column. The Gruta de las Maravillas surprises us with monumental spaces such as the Great Hall, which is the largest cavity with a height of 50 meters. From here, the visitor can climb to the hall known as La Catedral, which is where the second level of galleries begins. The bath of the Sultana is a small gorge full of charm. A spot which serves as an introduction to the Lago de las Esmeraldas. The reflection of the walls in the water gives this environment a special magic. Emerging as trunks 100,000 years old, these floating calcite cones constitute one of the most exceptional speleothems in the grotto. The Cristalería de Dios, or glassware of God, with its vaulted ceilings set with delicate formations, is truly imposing. The peculiar shapes of the Hall of the Nudes give the finishing touch to the route through galleries which have been the settings for numerous films and a source of inspiration for artists. The beauty of its lakes, the grandeur of its spaces, and the variety and richness of its speleothems make the Gruta de las Maravillas one of the most beautiful creations on Earth. A spectacle built up over thousands of years by the modeling force of nature. A landscape which appears unchanging to our eyes, but which changes a little with each drop. We have visited incredible places, but we still have many more to discover. A series of wetlands with an explosive biodiversity awaits us. And an imposing panorama in which what is natural becomes supernatural. The waterfall of Los Litueros falls into the void shortly before its waters join the stream of Las Pedrizas to give rise to the river Duraton. A river which has its source in Madrid, but traces its most beautiful silhouette in the province of Segovia. Here, it winds curve after curve, embedded in a deep canyon which is more than 100 meters deep. Rugged clefts accompany it on its way in a succession of meanders, which the river has opened in the limestone with its course. This sinuous horizon is the nature reserve of the Hoces del Duraton. 27 kilometers in which the river is enclosed by large rock walls in a succession of dizzying landscapes. Over millions of years, the Duraton has excavated the gorges out of limestone and dolomites formed by sediments which were deposited in an ancient sea during the Cretaceous period. A karst process by which the water has filtered through these permeable materials and dissolved the rock from the inside to create galleries which lowered the bottom when they collapsed. Active and continuous erosion which carries on rewriting this territory every day. The different climates and soils encourage the existence of diverse ecosystems. In the upper area, the high moorland of junipers. Riverside woodland covers the banks. And in the clefts, the rock vegetation sprouts between their cracks and projections. A varied environment in which we can find almost 200 species of birds, many of which are birds of prey. Among its ravines and cavities thrives the largest griffon vulture colony in Europe, with over 700 pairs. The Oces del Duraton holds an extraordinary natural paradise, and also an historical one, as numerous cultures have settled here over the last 5,000 years. Among the remains which still survive, the Chapel of San Frutos stands out. Located on the rocky spur of one of the gorges, this 12th century Romanesque construction was erected on a previous Visigothic building of the 7th century. Abandoned over 200 years ago and inaccessible nowadays, the 13th century Convento de Nuestra Señora de los Ángeles de la Hoz gives this spot of the reserve an imposing beauty. Its ruins appear to wish to merge into this undermined and ruined landscape in which the river has made its way by devouring the rock. An undulating path full of bends, twists and turns. It is as if the Duraton lingers on purpose because it is in no hurry to cross this captivating landscape. Dunes, beaches, wetlands, a port, and salt flats. This exceptional complex, with a favorable geographical location and climate, is an important wintering area for numerous species of birds. The regional reserve of the salt flats and sands of the Arenales de San Pedro del Pinatar. Located in the region of Murcia, to the north of the lagoon known as the Mar Menor, this protected natural space stands out for its high biodiversity. Wetlands which provide nesting sites and a place to rest for a multitude of birds. Some of these can be observed here all year round. such as avocets, black-winged stilts, and flamingos. The saltwater shallows provide food for the fauna and are a popular attraction for bird lovers. Its varied vegetation is conditioned by harsh climatological conditions, as is borne out by the twisted shapes of the Aleppo pines which grow on the dunes. Near the sea, plants such as bird's foot trefoil help to fix the sands to avoid the movement of the dunes. Rushes and shrubby sea blight grow alongside the wetlands to provide a refuge for birds. This series of salt pools and beaches separated by sandbars provides a great natural richness which man has exploited. The high salinity of the water, the incidence of the sun, and a flat terrain, which may even be below sea level, make this an ideal place for the extraction of salt. Here, the water passes through various pools, storage areas, heating areas, and crystallizers until the salt is obtained. A salt of high quality which has been exploited in this area since Roman times. The regional reserve of the salt flats of San Pedro has an abundant flora and fauna which coexists in harmony with human activities. The exploitation of the salt flats is an example of a sustainable economy which has encouraged the existence of this extraordinary ecosystem. Its pools and brushstrokes which tinge with pink a landscape bursting with life. In the central part of the Ebro Valley lies a surprising place. A desert at the gateway to the Pyrenees. A spectacular landscape which is the result of the erosion of the wind and the rain and has been declared a biosphere reserve by the UNESCO. The Bardenas Reales. The adjective it bears, royal, refers to the fact that during the 9th and 10th centuries, this land belonged to the Crown of Navarre. The unusual geology of the environment, in which materials of varying hardness alternate, has produced formations of striking beauty. Plateaus, rugged ravines, and fascinating fairy tale chimneys known as cabezos. A landscape which has been modeled slowly for millions of years. In the Tertiary period, the clash of the Iberian and European tectonic plates created a large depression in this area which became isolated, surrounded by mountain ranges. Without an outlet to the sea, the basin filled with sediment from the mountains, which became consolidated by their conversion into rock. The basin opened up again to the Mediterranean in the Quaternary period. The water which covered this territory gradually disappeared, and the sediments were left exposed on the surface. The terrain with softer materials, clays, loams, muds, and gypsum, underwent rapid and intense erosion, with the result being a large depression known as La Blanca. The Bardena Blanca is surrounded by a large plateau and a series of relief forms shaped like tables, which were less worn as they were protected by harder strata such as limestones, sandstones, and conglomerates. La Blanca is where the most spectacular formations are concentrated, such as the Blanquithales or Badlands, ephemeral silhouettes created over millions of years. Together with the aridity of the soil, the salts and gypsums present in the substratum are of a whitish color, which gives this area a lunar appearance. Although the most outstanding figures to be found here are the hills or cabezos, such as Castil de Tierra, which has become the icon of Las Bardenas. Castil de Tierra is a fairy tale chimney, a natural column protected from erosion by a sandstone rock on its peak. Its different colors are due to the various minerals of which it is composed. At its foot, a sinuous terrain of gullies and ravines opens up. The sparse vegetation and the force of the rain and the wind have modeled this rock pinnacle, which is one of the best examples of the erosive processes which have vanquished this place. This process continues, and someday will finally destroy this natural monument, which today stands fragile, yet majestic. The strange landscape of the Bardenas Reales stands out as being surprisingly arid against the greenery of the woods of Navarre. Its desolate beauty will make us wish to find the desert hidden in the midst of the oasis. This huge stone mass rises suspended at a height of 1,800 meters. At its foot open the remains of an ancient volcanic caldera, a rugged panorama which is the result of millions of years of virulent eruptions, collapses, and erosion. A wild relief which the writer Miguel de Unamuno described as a petrified storm. An impressive landscape in which nature shows its strength. The sacred mountains of Gran Canaria. Born 14 million years ago of the sea depths, the island of Gran Canaria shows throughout its territory the wounds of a wild geological past. Large and explosive volcanic eruptions alternated with long erosive processes to leave these fine scars visible. The caldera of Tejeda extends along 17 kilometers in the place which was occupied 3 million years ago by a stratovolcano standing over 3,000 meters high. Some of the remains of this ancient volcano, which collapsed in a violent manner, still stand solitary and defiant. These are the so-called roques, spectacular formations full of magic. Their magnetism not only brings tourists to the islands today, but also attracted the first settlers to establish themselves in the area, who came from North Africa. They lived either in natural caves or in caves excavated in the rock, adapting their culture and beliefs to the imposing orography in the shelter of these fascinating masses of rock, until the Spaniards arrived in the 15th century. Rising 80 meters in height from its base, the Roque Nublo is the symbol of Gran Canaria, one of the largest roques in the world. It was considered by the Aborigines to be a sacred place of worship. Here they lived and held burials and other ceremonies. This ancient relationship between the volcanic nature of the island and the Aborigines of the Canary Islands down the centuries has led to the cultural landscape of Risco Caído, or Fallen Crag, and the Sacred Mountains being declared a World Heritage Site. The Roque Nublo is a petrified memory of ancient pyroclastic outflows, a silent and eroded witness to the explosive eruption of one of the volcanoes which modeled this territory. Walking along the Tablón del Nublo, the wide area of level ground which leads to the monolith, means penetrating a supernatural world which appears to connect us with the ancient inhabitants of these landscapes. Alongside it stands the small Roque de la Rana. Further away, another of the sacred mountains of the Aborigines stands out on the broken horizon. The Roque Bentayga, the remains of an ancient volcanic chimney which time has left exposed. The contemplation of the sacred mountains of Gran Canaria transcends the landscape and culture. This journey back in time over millions of years invites us to feel the force and the power of creation of nature as our ancestors did. In our next program, we will travel to new spectacular natural places, such as a mysterious lake which is said to be bottomless, a coast where you will travel back in time just by walking along it, a spectacular canyon which is not suitable for those who suffer from vertigo, and this desert full of spots out of a film. You won't want to miss it.